What's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and as of a couple hours ago, the NBA postseason bracket is finally filled out. We know exactly which teams are playing in the play-in and in what order, what teams they would face off against if they made it out of the play-in tournament, and who all the other playoff teams are facing off against. And let me say, just looking at this bracket off the top of my head, it's an incredible bracket. We're going to see so many incredible first-round matchups, so many player duels that I'm excited for, so many potential second or even conference final round series that are ahead of us, and even NBA Finals. When I think about all the different teams that could come out of each of these conferences and face off in the NBA Finals, I truly believe we're in for one of the best NBA playoffs that we have ever seen. And today, I'm not going to be making my formal predictions. That's going to be a video later in the week. Right now, I'm just going to be breaking down the bracket, talking about some of the most interesting matchups, and maybe hint a little bit at teams that I'm leaning towards. All throughout this week, I'm going to be making series-specific videos, breaking down individual series, and talking about who I think comes out of those. So make sure to comment down below if there's any series that you want to see me break down in detail. And at the end of the week, I'll make an official all-out NBA playoff predictions video that y'all can go back to and laugh at me when I get literally everything wrong. With that being said, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and hit that notification bell if you want to see more of these videos. And let's go ahead and get right into it. We can start off with the play-in tournament matchups. As you can see, rocking the Thunder shirt right here, my Oklahoma City Thunder ended up in the 10 spot to face the New Orleans Pelicans, who lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves earlier today, ending up falling to this 9 spot. And this is going to be a really interesting matchup. It's Shea versus Brandon Ingram in particular. How will Lou Dort fare against Brandon Ingram? He's a really good defender, but last time we played New Orleans, Brandon Ingram gave him a lot of problems, mainly because he can just shoot over almost anybody on this team. So I'm interested to see how Mark Daigneault game plans for that. There's not going to be Zion Williamson in the fold of things, unfortunately. How will Herb Jones fare against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? And of course, it's all being played in New Orleans, so how will that home court advantage factor play into things, especially for a Pelicans team that's kind of already been there and done this before, winning in the play-in tournament last year to make the NBA playoffs. So they definitely have the advantage, but you know me, I'm going to be biased and say that the Thunder are at least going to give them a bit of a challenge. If we head over now to the 7-8 spot, the Lakers did win today, but despite that, so did the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers, setting them up for a play-in matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who also got a win today over the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm sure most people are going to pick the Lakers to win this matchup. They've got LeBron, they've got Anthony Davis. They've been one of the best teams in the Western Conference since those trade deadline moves, bringing in Vando and D'Lo and Beasley. Austin Reeves has continued to look better and better. This is a really good Lakers team and a squad that many people think could potentially make a run from play-in to NBA Finals. And if you don't believe me, just go ahead and scroll Twitter right now, because I promise that's a big sentiment going around that they're dark horse contenders. And I don't blame people when you take a look at what they've done recently and just the fact that they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It makes sense why so many people believe in them. But this play-in tournament game is going to be an amazing first test, because this Timberwolves team is really good. They've of course got Anthony Edwards, who almost single-handedly willed this Timberwolves team to a win today and has really blown up onto the scene, making an all-NBA case after being an all-star for the first time this past February. He's amazing in the future of the franchise, and alongside him, of course, he has Karl Anthony Towns, as well as Rudy Gobert, who we don't know if he'll play in this first play-in game, mainly because he punched Kyle Anderson during this game on the bench, which ended up getting him sent home for the second half of the game. He never played after that punch. So maybe they end up suspending him. I would say it's probably in their best interest to just let him play, but in terms of team decisions, we'll see what happens. It's definitely a new wrinkle in the fold of things, but I'm kind of leaning the Lakers probably win this one, but at the same time, the Timberwolves are no easy out because of Anthony Edwards. Flashing over to the Eastern Conference play-in, Bulls versus Raptors will probably be a fun defensive matchup. The Bulls have been one of the best defenses in the NBA since the All-Star break, while the Toronto Raptors are just one of the most annoying teams to face due to their length. I'm very interested to see who comes out of that one. And then over in the 7-8 spot, you have the Miami Heat against the Atlanta Hawks. The Heat today ended up winning over the Orlando Magic due to a Udonis Haslem masterclass. In his final game, he was out there catching lobs. He had 24 points. Just ridiculous. Game 82 is one of the funniest things ever, because you see the most random players go crazy. Kenneth Lofton Jr. and the Grizzlies had a 40-piece against the Thunder today. It's basically the NBA's version of a Twilight Zone, but I digress. I think the 7-8 matchup between the Heat and the Hawks is going to be a fun one. You've got Trae Young facing off against Jimmy Butler, two really solid playoff performers. I do think the Heat probably get the best of them here. Last year in this matchup that was actually a first round series with the Hawks as the 8 and the Heat as the 1. They did a great job of not just slowing down, but basically completely neutralizing Trae Young in that series. I think they do something similar here, and the Heat probably move on to face off against the Celtics in round 1, which in itself is a very interesting matchup there, as well as against the Milwaukee Bucks. Whoever comes out of it, the Hawks, the Raptors, the Bulls, or even if it is the Heat, I think the Bucks are probably going to take care of that series pretty handily. They're really, really good, and I don't see any of these playing teams messing with them. But even still, there are probably teams that the Bucks would rather not face, like the Miami Heat, who I still think the Bucks will beat, but the Heat would probably give them a tougher series than any of those other squads. And if we take a look at the potential 1-2 matchups in the Western Conference against some of these play-in teams, I think a Lakers-Grizzlies series could be very interesting because Anthony Davis against Jaren Jackson Jr. is a matchup that I'm really keeping an eye on. Triple J might be the defensive player of the year, but the Grizzlies are now without a lot of front court depth due to the lack of Steven Adams for their entire playoff run, as well as Brandon Clark. They're going to need guys like David Roddy, maybe even Kenneth Lofton Jr. to step up big in their absence. But if they're going up against Anthony Davis, Jaren Jackson Jr. might get in foul trouble, which he is prone to. Who steps up? Who consistently stops Anthony Davis? Can Dillon Brooks slow LeBron James down enough to neutralize him or at least give the Grizzlies a bit of an advantage? How does Ja Morant fare? It's a really interesting series. If we see that one, I think that's going to be one that a lot of people pick as an upset in favor of the Lakers. And for the Denver Nuggets, I think whoever comes out of it, unless it's the Lakers who can give them a bit more problems, I think the Nuggets pretty comfortably win their first round series. But if it is the Lakers, that AD Jokic matchup is going to be incredible to watch. And once again, I think a lot of people are probably going to pick that as an upset, even though the Nuggets will be considered the favorites. So that's a quick breakdown of the potential 1-2 matchups. Now let's flash over to the 3-6. And if we start in the Eastern Conference, Sixers versus Nets, I do think will be fun and I'm excited for it. But it's probably one of the weaker series in these initial matchups that we do already know, just because this Nets team, I mean, they've got Mikal Bridges, who's really fun, and I think this is a great chance for him to show out on a massive stage as the number 1 option for the first time. You know, Nick Claxton is a great defensive big. Maybe he gives Embiid some problems. Spencer Dinwiddie can maybe wreak havoc on that backcourt. Hopefully Cam Thomas absolutely gets some minutes. And if this Nets team is knocking down some threes, you know, they're defending well, Mikal Bridges could maybe give James Harden some problems defensively, then maybe the Nets could take a game, or maybe even 2. But at the same time, I think Philly is pretty clearly the favorite here. They just have way more talent. They're way more cohesive. They've been together as a unit this entire season. I'd be surprised if the Nets made this too difficult on them. But at the same time, I am watching for the Mikal Bridges show. How much is he going to do in his first playoff series as that number 1 option? And if Philly can't put this series away quickly, which they've shown a knack for doing in the past, it makes their road to the NBA Finals a lot harder. But the other 3-6 matchup is where things get really interesting, because Sacramento versus Golden State is one of the most polarizing series in this entire bracket. If you scroll Twitter right now, or if you've even just looked at Twitter over the past few weeks, this is a matchup that has seemed more and more likely, and many teams have been saying we want Sacramento in the first round. Fan bases have been saying we want to face the Kings round 1. So people have been debating this, talking about how the Golden State Warriors are going to knock the Kings out early despite them having an amazing season. De'Aaron Fox, probably the clutch player of the year, best season of his career, first-time All-Star. Domantas Sabonis came into things and pretty soundly established himself as the 3rd, 4th best big in the league, depending on where you want to put him. He's an absolute monster, should be on an all-NBA team. You've also got great shooters surrounding them. Keegan Murray broke the all-time NBA three-point record for a rookie. Kevin Huerter's a sniper. Harrison Barnes knocks down shots. Malik Monk, a spark plug off the bench. Mike Brown going up against his former team in his first season as head coach for the Sacramento Kings. It's a really fun matchup between them and the current reigning champion Golden State Warriors, who have really fallen off a little bit over the course of this season, but they still are Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Andrew Wiggins is going to be coming back, Kevon Looney, Steve Kerr. They've been there. They've done this multiple times. They're the most experienced team in this entire field. Yet they're probably going to go into this as the underdogs because they're going up against the Kings, who have a great home court advantage already with the crazy fan base that they have. The Warriors can't seem to win on the road. We'll see what happens in this one, but I think it's a lot closer than people are giving it credit for. I really think the Kings have a pretty good shot of knocking off the reigning champions in round 1 in their first playoff appearance in 16 years. This is one that I'm absolutely keeping my eye on, and I'd love to hear what y'all opinions are of it in the comments down below. 100% going to be making a full video breaking down this series. And finally, we have the 4-5 matchup starting over in the Eastern Conference. We've got Cavs versus Knicks. This is one that I've already got a video pretty much done and ready to come out with in a couple of days, because this matchup matchup has been set for a while, and there are so many fun storylines, in particular with Donovan Mitchell going up against the New York Knicks, the team that we all thought he was going to end up on in the offseason, instead going to Cleveland to form a team that many people think is a dark horse championship contender. The Knicks bounced back from a disappointing season in a big way. Jalen Brunson has been incredible. Julius Randle is back to being an all-star and probably even all-NBA caliber player. It's going to all come down to the consistency of each team's star guys. Can Evan Mobley slow down Julius Randle? Can Jalen Brunson match the production of Donovan Mitchell? Like I said, I'm going to have a full video coming on it, but I really think this is probably going to be a 6-7 game series. That's going to be one of the most fun of the entire first round. And finally, in the other 4-5 matchup, we have the Phoenix Suns versus the Los Angeles Clippers, who actually played a little bit earlier today, with the Clippers winning, thereby setting themselves up for this first round series. I saw a lot of people on my timeline saying that, hey, maybe the Clippers should have tried to throw this game so they could have maybe had an easier first round matchup. The Clippers decided, no, we're going to end up winning this game. We're going to go into this first round. We're going to take the Suns on head on. And it's going to be difficult. This Suns team is undefeated with Kevin Durant in the lineup. They're 8-0. Him, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, some really solid role players around them. They are a force to be reckoned with, and many people's favorites come out of the Western Conference. Meanwhile, the Clippers, they have an amazing performer of their own in Kawhi Leonard. He's been one of the best playoff performers in modern history, but he's going to be without his co-star for at least the beginning of the series in Paul George. We don't know when PG is going to come back. He doesn't have an exact timetable. Hopefully he's able to come back soon, because that adds a whole nother element to this series. But from the get-go, it's going to be up to Kawhi Leonard to both slow down Kevin Durant and carry the offensive load. It's also going to be interesting to see which role players step up. The Clippers role players have been really hit or miss over the course of the season. They're going to need all hands on deck, as well as with Russell Westbrook, who is now facing Kevin Durant in the playoffs for the first time ever. A really fun storyline there, once again, for a Thunder fan in me. This is one of those series that I've been hoping we were going to get in the first round because of all the things I just mentioned, and also because there's a lot of stakes on the line. If the Suns lose, that's a massive disappointment for their first season having Kevin Durant. If the Clippers lose, it's once again an early exit for them. Where do they go from here? This matchup has a lot on the table, and the winner of this still has to probably face the Denver Nuggets in round 2, who themselves are championship contenders, and if they win that, they'll have to face someone in the Western Conference Finals. These two teams have ridiculous hard paths to the championship. However, I don't think it's unrealistic for either of these squads to lift the Western Conference Finals champion trophy at the end of the bracket. So that's my quick breakdown of the NBA playoffs bracket that we have right now. Like I said, please comment down below which series in particular do you want to see me break down and make predictions on over the course of this week. You will have a full finalized playoff predictions video at the end of the week, right before the playoffs themselves start. So make sure to keep a lookout for that. Predict down below who's going to win the NBA Finals. Which series are you most excited to see right here off the bat? Who's your dark horse contender? If your favorite team is in the playoffs, let me know how you think they're going to do so I can take that into account going forward. With all that being said, I'm super excited. I think these are going to be some of the best playoffs that we have ever seen. Really crossing my fingers on that, and even going to knock on wood, because the cone curse is a thing, and I really hope I just didn't make these playoffs absolutely terrible. With that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. As I said earlier, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.